The opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official positions of the sponsors, advertisers, or presenters. Advertising does not imply endorsement by the sponsors and presenters.
Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Lighting Controls Podcast. We have another fantastic conversation for you guys, and we can't wait to jump into it. But before we do, I just want to take a minute to remind everyone that today's episode is presented by the LCA, the Lighting Controls Association.
And it's also financially supported by NAILD, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Also, if you haven't checked out the website, check it out. It's worth it. See all our previous episodes, check out the news briefs, and also check out our merch store if you want to support the podcast. But anyways, to get into it, today we have Justin and Zach from AMP. Justin and Zach, do you mind just giving us a quick breakdown on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Justin Belz. I'm with AMP Landscape Lighting. I've got my partner Zach here with me, Zach Evensen. I'm the senior AMP specialist. I take care of all the contractors that purchase our landscape lighting in the Southeast territory of the United States. So I help provide support to them, product selections, help them guide them along the way, also educate people a lot on intro to landscape lighting with people that are looking to add it as a service and get into it. Probably the person that's taught me the most would be Zach here.
Yeah, my name's Zach Evensen with AMP Lighting, Sales Enablement Manager. Big part of my role is really just helping the sales team have all the necessary tools they need to educate their contractors or their customers, provide their customers with the best service, and really know what they're talking about when they get down to it.
Zach would also be like our product specialist. He'll downplay himself a lot, but he works very closely with like our product development team. He created our design service. He's our Swiss Army knife at AMP Lighting here.
Talking me up.
Well, thank you both for joining us today, and I really appreciate you bringing in your expert, Justin, so that we can really kind of dig into the details here. But it's interesting. When originally we were looking at this and talking to you guys, AMP, landscape lighting. It's like, well, okay, where's the overlap with lighting controls here? But I think what really helps us here is listening to the origins of AMP. So do you mind just giving us a history tour of where AMP came from?
Yeah, so really AMP was started based off of demand that we saw with contractors needing affordable and easily accessible landscape lighting products. And so the market was typically closed to distribution and many layers within that. And so we've actually went and broke down those walls. And so now we're able to vet out, contractors, make sure that, we're taking a look at who we're bringing on to our team, and really just allowing anyone who wants to do landscape lighting and empowering them to do so.
So AMP only sells directly to contractors. AMP doesn't sell to homeowners or any resellers, which gives us a great advantage over other competitors in the market. But the best advantage for a contractor is they're working with somebody who has an everyday contact with our product development team, the warranty department, anyone that would help make sure that the products that they're getting are of the best quality, and that message that they give back to us, which is most important, like our contact with the contractors, is actually going somewhere, not just being lost in an email chain trying to be put up the ladder for somebody to never hear.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a really interesting business model because it's so unique to what Ron and I anyways see in our day-to-day, where we're dealing with either design bid build, where you have, the bid going out to the contractor's going out to the distributor, and the distributor is reaching out to, there's like this chain of events, and you're basically trying to cut out as much of that chain as you can to create a faster and more effective process for the purchasing and installation of product.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us a lot more control over what we're putting out on the market, the cost, the availability, the accessibility, and we're able to handle all that in-house, which allows us, much more control over what's provided.
Yeah, it's not only the affordability about kind of eliminating some of the middlemen that everybody has to mark up their price and get their piece of the pie. I mean, we're all in business, we understand it, but it also, like, the best advantage, in my opinion, is making sure that these contractors are getting what they want, and we know that what we're trying to develop and put out is actually going to somebody, or is something that people want to see.
Yeah, and so I think, our lighting controls could definitely learn from that business model, because a lot of people are kind of like, how do I make sure that this is going to be what I want it to be? And so what your process here, granted, it sounds like there's a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more overhead when it comes to making sure the project is going to be successful.
That's definitely the case, and what we've really specialized in is taking a lot of these outside industries that aren't lighting experts and bringing them up to speed to become lighting experts.
Right.
And so we see a wide variety of different professionals within our industry be able to expand what they normally provide, and that's really at the heart of it. What's empowering all of these people is really being able to add value to their standard services they provide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just curious if you don't mind just talking a little bit more about what a project looks like for you guys. Like, how does it go from beginning to end?
So normally I have contractors that'll reach out, depending on the experience level that they have. Let's say it's someone a little bit less experienced that's really kind of getting into it, and there's been a lot of hand holding and guiding along the way. So they'll reach out. I usually get an email or text messages. So many of them love texting me, and I'll get a like 20 picture text message of a job that they're looking at, which is like best case scenario. The worst is when I just get like a picture of a tree stump and they're like, hey, how do I light this? So when they actually provide me with like enough of a variety and I can actually see the project that's going on, is usually when I'll start working with them, trying to understand what their customer's looking for, what they're looking to do, making sure this is within their capabilities, which they can almost accomplish anything we set them to. If it's definitely a more complex one, usually that's when I kind of pass that off to Zach's department, and we'll have them sign up with our design service. It's a free service that we have right now, but they'll submit a lot of the pictures for it. And then Zach will develop one of the layouts that is the fixture selection, placement, wire runs, wire loads.
Yep.
You can go into that process a little bit.
It really depends on how comfortable your customer is with installing, right? If they're typically lawn care service, they may not be as experienced with wiring and making connections and things like that. And so we're going to start with the basics with them, and we're going to say, hey, don't go and take on a $40,000 lighting project. Start with a $2,000, $5,000 project and work it that way. Gain the confidence. Because a lot of what we do is pretty basic, right? It's ground mounted fixtures, tree mounted fixtures, some architecturally mounted fixtures, but a majority is all ground mounted. And so, when you're staying on the ground, pretty much a majority of people in the service industry could accomplish that and really understand. It's when you start getting into, hardscape lighting, more complicated architectural lighting is when people get nervous. They don't know how to route their wire runs, or where to put the light to get the perfect projection of light. And so when you're dealing with some of the newer people in the industry, we're going to keep it to the basics, and really just educate them and gain the confidence at that level, and then bring them up to a higher tier.
Maybe I jumped the gun on it a little bit, but that's usually where we start out with like our intro to landscape lighting presentation.
Yeah.
And that goes a little bit into fixture selection, the different types of fixtures. It'll go into a little bit of design and a little bit of installation that will give these contractors the confidence to go out and kind of pitch it enough to then I can receive those 20 pictures and they say, all right, what do we really do here? And am I along the same lines with what I was thinking? That presentation has become so useful to us, and so many people come in requesting it because they'll come in, tell us, hey, somebody requested lighting on one of my jobs. I've never really done this before. And that usually takes like about an hour, depending on how many questions they ask. And it gives them enough experience, like I said, to kind of pitch it to the customers, feel comfortable enough. I think the number one thing that I do is make sure that these guys are comfortable going out and speaking on what they now offer as a service, and not just telling people that they just pass it off to somebody else.
Right. And so, from that holistic approach of outreach, and that's really where your marketing is focused on, is getting communication out to the contractors, getting education and awareness of the brand. And so I hear my fellow reps tapping on my shoulder right now going, that's what we do. And so I'm just curious, if you have like sort of a response to that, because that's kind of, the model that reps have. So it sounds like you're hybridizing that work.
So that's really what we've done with developing the AMP specialist team, is bringing in the AMP specialists that are aware of all of that and work with the contractors to guide them along the process. I mean, we definitely have a lot of account manager and rep responsibilities to make sure we're guiding them along the way, being the experts in what they're looking to do and holding their hand through the process to make them comfortable. We've just brought the process in-house, and that's kind of what we've developed our business model to be. And the reaction from all of the contractors is they're so much happier with it. I had one contractor who was looking, it was actually a landscape architect, and they were looking for fixtures that fit within certain requirements and needed special IES files. And I have the ability to run right up the stairs from my office and grab one of the guys from product development, and I might throw this on them every once in a while, maybe more often than they like. But,
not too happy. But
yeah, not always.
They
but
still like
I'm like, hey, guess what? I have someone on speakerphone, and they got a lot of questions. But because no matter how much of an experienced rep you are, there's going to be, unless you've ever been in the product development field, there's going to be questions that you have.
Nothing
and it also
beats the
makes
horse's mouth, you know? Yeah.
It also makes them feel much more comfortable when they know they're speaking to somebody about that. Or even if they've had a failure and they're trying to make sure that they're doing the install correctly, and you can put that extra person on the phone to give them the confidence or direct them in the right area.
And again, that's kind of what we talk about when we're breaking down those walls of distribution, right? A rep is an integral part of that distribution layer, being able to communicate from the manufacturer to the customer. And, us eliminating that is just one less step you're going to have to jump through, which people tend to like.
That less hoop they have to jump through saves you money in the long run.
That's right. Money and time.
Yep. So just curious, I want to jump back to your design services for a second. I'm curious, do your design services also include like any renderings or anything that you can share with the contractors to help with the sales pitch to the customers?
So at this time, it's an early program for us, right? So this is something that we've seen a demand. We've spoken to the customers. We've heard their feedback loud and clear, and this is something that has been very important for them, and we know that. So we brought this program out. It's still in its early phases, and so we are definitely looking to increase that platform to be more encompassing. Really at the end of the day, the visual aspect is what sells the design, the project. And so
sell the art, not the part.
Sell the art, not the part. And so that's really what they're doing with those 2D renderings, or the actual visualized renderings.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like that's from my perspective, that's a huge thing for us that we do for our customers as well, right? We will physically go out, do on-site mock-ups and stuff, which I'm sure your contractors do. I'm sure they have demo kits they take out with them and do that, because it's exactly it. You have to sell the art, right? You can talk to somebody till they're blue in the face, but when you can show them exactly how it's going to look, that makes a world of difference.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't creative, right? And that's okay. They don't have to be. But you're there to really kind of show them the end result, show them that art that you're going to create, and really make it look like a painting. Sell the experience, and we see that really helping not only sell jobs but also to upsell and increase the value. Say, hey, it could look like this, but if we fill in some more spaces and add this and this, and then it really comes together. Whereas if you were to just tell them, hey, I'm going to add 5 more lights, all they hear is the numbers. They're not looking at the vision.
Mhm.
And so it definitely is very, very powerful.
I would say one of my top contractors out of the Carolinas, he said he doesn't even tell them how many fixtures he's going to use or where he's going to place them. And this guy, he must be one great salesman, because he doesn't even use a demo kit or anything like that. But what he does is walk around the property and he sells the vision of, I'm gonna illuminate this like this. You're gonna see these shadows popping over here, and he sells the entire vision of what they're going to accomplish, illuminating the structure of the home or whatever it may be. And it comes down to the experience, and with the outdoor living spaces becoming so popular, increasing the use of them. I always say, when you're walking up to a homeowner, you want to find, is it safety and security, or is it the ambiance and the look that they're looking to get out of it? So seeing the different ways people do that is pretty neat.
Yeah.
But the design service really has helped lay it out so that at least these guys are going to know where the fixtures need to be placed. And the EMP specialist team that I'm on, we always have the follow-ups with the contractors. Sometimes we bring in Zach or BJ, one of the other guys from the design team, to go over it with them, so that once they have this and they can show it to the homeowner and it looks like a great professional layout, then it's the responsibility of the contractor to be able to sell that vision.
Yeah, what we found with the design service really is that it's helping the contractor create their, whatever change orders need to be made when they do their visits and things like that, as well as any type of as built. So when they leave their customer with an as built, they have the whole layout there, and anyone can come and pick the project up if they weren't able to. So just more layers of value that we've seen add to it.
No, it's really an interesting prospect here. I mean, we've definitely heard of manufacturers kind of doing stuff like this, but that is the model that you have here. It's not like an added component to it. And so it really kind of does shake up the dynamic a bit, which is really fascinating to hear about, especially because you're telling me, contractors are responding positively to it, which means that you have tapped into something that is a pain point for contractors. I mean, one thing like Justin, what you were saying is timeliness. The ability to respond to a question can really kill a job's prospects, because if that email gets too stale and that question goes for too long being unanswered, then, they're probably going to reach out to somebody else, or they might go, you know what, we don't actually need this.
They lose the confidence and trust in them.
Yeah.
And when they can come to the property and just say, hey, I'm taking a bunch of pictures, I'm going to go back to my office and I'm going to design this out. Let's set an appointment for 48 hours out from now, 2 days out, and I'll be back with that plan to go over it with you, increases the confidence. And they think it actually adds a little bit more value to the work that the contractor's putting into this. And we've seen, I thought it was going to be so much more of only beginners using this service, but I've found a lot of different, very experienced contractors doing this, because it takes some of the workload off of them.
Sure.
One of the guys I have over in New Smyrna Beach, he has used it to, he designs it all out. He sells the jobs. He does a lot of AV equipment as well. And he hands this over to the irrigation guy in his area, who runs all the wires, sets up all the hubs, does all of that legwork for him. He then puts in the fixtures where he wants them, adjusts them a little bit, make sure he gets the right outcome. But he uses that plan to hand over. So we've seen so many different uses of it. Zach could probably speak a little bit more on what type of levels of people are using it, but just from mine, I mean, I thought those two different ones were so drastic. It was really neat to see the versatility of it.
Yeah. I mean, really, when we deal with like pure lighting installers, we don't really see too many of those showing up, and that's really because they have the experience, they have the vernacular. They can go up and they can sell a job just off of words in many cases, and because they're just that good. But we're seeing a lot of intermediate to beginners who may not have the staff, and this day and age, the climate right now, we are seeing a lot of staffing issues across the board in all industries. And what this is allowing them to do is reduce the amount of people they need on a job. And so they say, hey, AMP, can you help me out with this? Draw it up. And what they're able to do is focus on what needs to be done. They're able to preset some of the particular tasks on the job. They're able to go and get a work crew, hand it over to them, and they can kind of focus on doing what's necessary and what's important from their level. But it's a lot of beginner, a lot of intermediate. Typically, people who have just signed up, maybe they're not confident in lighting. They come from another industry, such as home integrators or irrigation, and they're just looking to expand what their services are.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, where does the line get stopped, though? Because lighting is only half the package, controls is the other half, and then there's integration, which might even be an additional component to it. So where do you draw the line with AMP and the services that you offer?
Well, I mean, in terms of the services that we offer, really the design is at this point the only service that we are offering. In the future, we do see how important controls are, and we've seen that escalating dramatically over the past few years. And so, in the early ages, we were using our Control Pro series, and that Control Pro series had an IR remote, which is still currently what we're using. And the demand has gotten so much more, and other systems out there now that can compete at a higher level. They definitely have more components within the integration that allow them to do more things than we're able to do. But we see that, and we understand that the demand is there, and so we are going to be making strides to be able to bring something like that to the market very soon.
Well, and you're
close the gap.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I was going to say what we've kind of done to close the gap a little bit with the integration is we've partnered with Ring Doorbell service. I mean, everybody's heard of that. So we've partnered with Ring, and it allows us to control the time settings via the Ring app on their phone. And this has been such an awesome partnership while we're developing the technology to have way more advanced controls, but giving the homeowner, and because we've seen most of them, after a while, homeowners don't really touch it too often. They have the preset settings that they want for the holidays and stuff like that. But what they really like to do is just have it in the palm of their hand, and having the ability to change those time controls is really making a difference in their view on having the control of their system. I think one of the coolest things that I've seen with the Ring is we've learned how to integrate the lighting. So say they have a dusk until midnight setting on their landscape lights. They can have it so that for the safety feature, so that when the Ring doorbell motion sensor senses somebody on their property, or if they have one of the floodlights on top of the garage and it senses somebody coming on the property, it will trigger all the landscape lights to turn on. And it's like, turn on the floodlights. Like, there it is. I mean, if anybody's walking on the property with bad intentions, they just are probably immediately turning around and like, well, let's try the neighbor's house.
Now, I'm curious, how are that integration with Ring? Do you have the ability to control your fixtures directly through their app, or are you doing it through a third-party service like IFT or something like that?
So all of our fixtures, they wouldn't be able to be individually controlled on the line, but you can control each power supply transformer in essence. So Ring has a few different options for us to use for our landscape lighting. One of the main ones would be the smart plug, and on the smart plug are two separate receptacles, and so you can operate two different power supplies or two transformers off of that and zone them this way. Granted, it's not as in-depth as a lot of people would like to go, but it's a start. It's a good start for us to see what people like and what works really well.
Nice. And then, so by enabling that, though, right, I'm assuming you guys have started to play with third-party home offerings. Like if you're in with Ring, then through Amazon Web Services or whatever, you can easily introduce, control with Alexa, or with Apple, you could do HomeKit. Have you guys started playing with that? Because like I know Ring works with those right off the bat, right? It's very easy to make that integration. So then it's just a matter of tying in that smart plug or how, to those lights through those other apps.
So if they're using the Ring smart plug, it automatically will connect to your Alexa. That's one that's been very easy and just automatic. We've seen a lot of people really choosing the Alexa and using that already. But most people just that have it on the Ring app just choose right for it to go to there.
And, and I think what we're doing in this is we're kind of taking this as our first iteration of diving into smart controls or some sort of base level control. And I think from there, we don't plan on really partnering or piggybacking off of another technology. We're going to really try and hone in and bring this in-house. That's really the key, so that we have, again, more control over what we're providing to our customers, making sure that they have, the best commercial grade products that they possibly can. We're just not there yet, but definitely something that we definitely want to bring in-house and be able to provide.
I think our number one goal with it is we just want to make sure that it's effective.
Yeah.
I was at a big show last year, and I heard a discouraging amount of feedback from contractors of how much of a difficult time they had with getting these systems set right and them actually staying effective. And I think that's been our main initiative. You're giving the customer the experience and the control that they want, but if it isn't effective in working on a regular basis, they get very discouraged. They end up never changing any of the settings. They never open the app again. And the value of what they made the purchase on has decreased so much in their own head that it's next to nothing.
I have a lot of contractors who are like, I'm terrified of that because I don't want to become an IT guy now. I want to just do lights. And so half of their fear is having to go back and reset the guy's router so that he can turn his lights on.
Right. But yeah, I think it's a wise move to leverage existing technology that already is incorporated into homes. I mean, we're talking exclusively about residential applications, but I mean, I think residential applications, as Ron and I have discussed in past podcasts, is the fertile opportunity for effective integration technology to take place because it's already there. People want it. People want Ring, for instance. It's not like a code enforced requirement. And so having that already in the structure just gives you the ability to tap right into it, and then it's just as easy for them. So along those lines, it's not just the contractors, it's everybody from beginning to end who, as soon as you say Ring, it's like, okay, great, done.
I know them. Yeah.
I think I've seen it even more. It's become, in the way I've explained it to contractors, and I see one, like we're doing a project somewhat locally here that should be at a country club. And from my experience with country clubs, I know that in the evening when your maintenance guys aren't there, having to run downstairs into the basement and find the lighting controls if you're having a wedding or an event or something can be quite a problem and quite difficult, and you're on the spot. So when you can give, let's say, the food and beverage manager or the general manager, any of the people that will be there in the evening, the simplicity of an app that there's 10 million homes in the United States. So everybody's pretty familiar with the Ring app. So when they can have the simplicity of that on their phone, and a couple people can be on it that might need it, and they can just switch on and off and have those controls or whatever they need to do. If they've got it set up in a couple different zones with transformers and they can control which ones they want on for ambiance, then it's a very simple way to do it without making it too complex, and even a commercial application like that.
For sure. No, and I mean, again, it's an excellent execution of that. So, I think as far as other manufacturers go, they should be paying attention to this. And, we're almost out of time here. So I kind of want to encapsulate what we've discussed here, because it's fascinating to me to hear about this. So basically, what you're doing is you're trying to cut out as many middlemen between production and installation as you can. And granted, you can't do that with the contractors unless you're actually, providing your own contractors nationwide. But, as far as things go, they're essentially the only other group that you're working directly with to achieve the results on a project. And so what you're doing as a manufacturer is you're acting as your own sales rep, you're acting as your own marketing team, you're acting as your own design and production, as well as actually, creating the resources and kicking it out the door to where it needs to go. But then after that, when it gets onto the site, you still need to kind of hover over it and make sure, okay, did you install it correctly? Do you need additional support? But you're trying to pay attention to what are the shortcuts to facilitate an easy installation and programming, which is such as with Ring, you don't need to hover over the project like, say, for instance, a large distributed lighting control solution might need to, because it's not as intuitive or it's not as well known or commonplace. So you've really kind of taken advantage of the fact that there's infrastructure already in place and just using that to your advantage. And so it's again, I really want to suggest that if there are any manufacturers listening to this episode, pay attention, because this is really interesting. And the fact that you're getting all of this feedback from the contractor saying, I love this, please do this more, should really be terrifying to everybody else, because contractors do have a lot of leeway over what ultimately gets put on a project.
I'd agree. We shook the industry.
Yep.
Which, I mean,
Proud to be a part of it.
I welcome. Yeah, I welcome the divergent thinking to really help facilitate more innovation in our industry. We do get into a habit of just staying, the course and letting inertia take over. But, then some, group like you comes in and says, hey, there's a better way to do it, and I'm doing it. And guess what? It's successful. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens over time. And again, what you guys will be doing with controls in the future.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. We have a lot of cool stuff in the works. We've heard what they want. We know what they want, and we're gonna make sure that we bring it out to them.
And make sure we bring it out right. That's been the number one.
Any chance we could see behind the curtain a little bit and hear what?
I know. I was going to say not to shake the tree, but what do you got hiding behind there?
I wish I could say something. I cannot say anything at this time.
That's okay.
But it is headed in the right direction, and we're definitely making sure that we're taking our time to provide the best possible product with the best possible seamless integration that's easy to use.
I think we're really looking at trying to give full control and the best experience. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we want it to be the most effective. And it's something that should be a little bit better than what everybody's seen in the industry. And I'm not trying to get in too much trouble by talking too much about it, as much as what I know I'd love to blurt out, but we're really looking forward to it. And I know Zach, being kind of our voice from the contractor, the product development team, Paul and Nolan have really stepped the game up to take us in a very exciting direction. So we're looking forward to that.
Well, we'll definitely have you back on when that happens, but thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, Justin, Zach,
thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And as we sort of talked about, we've seen so many struggles with contractors with commercial installation and adoption of lighting controls. And like we talked about quickly, it really is fertile ground in the residential market. And it's all about user experience. And if we can get end users to really buy in to automation in their houses and make it easy and effective, and then start to take that technology and make it less complicated than it is currently into the commercial space, right? We can really start to kind of move the needle and get more adoption of controls in commercial buildings so that users aren't just trying to bypass things at the end of the day. And I think you guys are doing a great job of helping to start to move that, and appreciate everything you guys are doing. So thank you again for a great episode. And I just want to take a brief minute to remind everyone that today's episode is presented by the LCA, the Lighting Controls Association.
And it's financially supported by the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, or NAILD, Again, check out our website, see all the previous episodes and any upcoming episodes if this is a record of previous days. And also check out the news feed. Really got some cool stuff that pops up on there every now and then. And if you want to support the podcast, please check out the merch store and buy some of our cool merch, like what Ron and I are wearing right now if you're watching the video. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us here. And Justin and Zach, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.